Okay, so between 20 and 40 million people are facing eviction in the United States, depending on who you believe. And there are a couple of suggestions that are being promoted by the parties, and one of them is to make the eviction moratorium longer while not forgiving any debt. And so obviously the people are going to have so much debt by the time they reach the deadline. They're at the end of a sword of Damocles, and hoping that the parties will save them, but not solving the fundamental problem that they've been laid off and don't have any income. And the other solution is various forms of either rent control or rent subsidy, these sorts of things. But it's a great time to re-examine fundamental solutions to the problem of renters, and as well as housing in the United States for the bottom 20% who are absolutely in desperation for years now, at least in the whole West Coast, and driven to homelessness by high rents. And so I'd like to suggest that you adopt a system where we just sunset the current practices where investors can buy our housing and then rent it back to us so that they can extract rents forever. Okay? And this drives up the asset value of land, and this causes land to be attractive as an investment for storing value. So at this point we have people coming from all over the world to buy American housing because it's a store of value, because it's almost like a speculative bubble with a little dividend. And the solution for this is that we would introduce a fundamental change in property law and abolish the English system of property, which has caused endless war and destruction, and is actually the root cause of colonialism in the first place, which has run rampant across North America. So what we're going to do is turn away from the English concept that people can own property and then rent it back to the peasants. We can avoid the neo-feudalism that is rolling out. And here's my suggestion. Starting at some point in time with a reasonable notice, like 5 years or 8 years, let's say 2025, that henceforth on January 1st, 2025, every renter will accrue a 5% ownership of the property that they're renting. Okay, they're gonna accrue a 5% ownership of that land or the house or the apartment for every year that they rented there, or maybe let's say every year that they rent from then forward. So this means that renters will stay in place and they keep paying rent, but then at the end of the year they own 5% of that property, and the landlord has lost 5% of the property. Sorry folks, land reform is always a zero-sum game, because land is a zero-sum game. Two people can't own a piece of land. Okay, land is zero-sum. So this is a nice incremental way. So if everybody who's renting gets 5% of their property every year, 5, 10, 15, 20. If they stayed there, let's say, for 4 years, then they would own 20% of that apartment. The apartment basically would become converted to a condominium economic structure, and then the landlord would have lost those 20%. These people who need to move a lot and who can't stay in one place, they would accumulate fractional shares in the places that they live, So they would accumulate something that's worth $10,000 here and $10,000 there. And a liquid market would emerge where people could sell their shares that they've accumulated, maybe back to the original landlord. Let him buy it back. So that in other words, the appreciation in land value is being captured by the renter and not by the investors. Which are often private equity firms, or God knows Chinese sovereign funds, or who knows who. But if you come back in 10 or 20 years after this, there's going to be a really great shift of ownership of land and property in the United States to the people who really live here and have a right to live here. And the land should have never been privatized in the first place. So that's my suggestion. Let's abolish the land system. Thank you.